Many in the media, including me, have been saying how much Donald Trump's indictment yesterday actually helps his political fortunes with Republicans coalescing around him. And there's no doubt that this is the case in the short term. But maybe I'm wrong in the long term about the GOP. Now, there's a lot of evidence showing how Trump has benefited. He raised more than $8 million, including many first-time donors in the days since the news broke, and has soared in the polls against his Republican rivals, including Ron DeSantis, since the announcement of the indictment. But remember, the Manhattan case might be just the beginning. There are all those other ongoing criminal investigations. There's the investigation in Georgia into election interference. Very soon a grand jury could indict Trump, and the Fulton County DA charge him. The special counsel investigation into obstruction of justice in connection with the classified documents from Mar-a-Lago. Trump's former Secret Service are set to testify before a D.C. grand jury on Friday. Sure, more indictments, I guess, could further help him, but maybe we're not keeping our eye closely enough on GOP sentiment. And maybe it will have just the opposite effect. The media circus we witnessed, the protests, the counter-protests, wall-to-wall live shots of Trump's plane taxiing on the runway, the motorcade traveling through New York, that wasn't the entire Trump investigation show. This is the opening act. And once it all plays out, Georgia, special counsel, January 6th, could Republican voters, and I'm just talking about them for now, throw up their hands and say, we've had enough? Yes, he's gone up in the polls, especially against Ron DeSantis, who's mostly kept his powder dry and hitting back at Trump's insults. And DeSantis hasn't even announced he's running. But are we making presumptions about Republican voters here? Might they get tired of this? It seems many already are. And once Trump legal fatigue sets in, might even more hardcore GOP voters simply say, we don't need this anymore. We got other very good candidates, and decide it's time to move on. Joining me now is Republican strategist, veteran of several congressional campaigns, including Senator Lindsey Graham. Dave Wilson joins us. Dave, thanks very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it.
Dan,
what's your take on this?
Absolutely. You know, the best thing that Donald Trump has to offer the American populace is 4 more years. And the reality is, I think there are a lot of people who are looking right now, and they're asking the question, is it worth us to continue to have this barrage again and again and again? You know, when Fannie Willis decides what she's going to do in Fulton County, Georgia, there's a much stronger case that Donald Trump was trying to do something with the 2020 election than there is this Stormy Daniels issue. And so I think voters are looking at this and going, what else are we going to have to deal with? You know, I sat with my dad at breakfast the other day, and I said, Dad, you know, among your friends, where are things? You know, he's 75 years old. He's sitting at home watching tonight. And he said, you know, most of my friends that I sit around and talk with who are core Republican voters, they said, it's time for us to move on. If only thing that Donald Trump can offer us is the next 4 years, I think there are a lot of Republicans who are saying, what are we going to do for the next 8 years, the next 12, the next 20 years? They're looking for that standard bearer, Dan, who is going to turn around and say, we're going to carry the conservative movement forward instead of continuing to make this about a single person. Now, is that going to be the case for all Republican voters? No, because even here in South Carolina, Donald Trump has a core group of voters who are Trump up and down, left and right, and they will not change.
Right. And there are those people, right? And there are the never Trumpers, right? And the never Trumpers have been saying for a long time, we got to get someone else. And when I say never Trumpers, I mean Republicans who are never Trumpers, saying we got to get someone else. It's time to move on. What I'm asking about is, you know, what's going to tip the scales here, right? We're looking at these polls that suddenly show Donald Trump shooting up, and I've been saying this regularly, oh, this is going to help him, this is going to help him. And then I started to take a step back. I read something that you had said, I read something that others had said that said, you know what, hold off, people. You know, this really may not help him in the long run. What is it that makes you think, putting aside the hardcore Trumpers, putting aside the never Trumpers, that those convincible GOP that are somewhere in between are going to say, rather than time to get behind him because we're sick of these investigations, instead of that, they're going to say, we're sick of him?
I think you're going to get to that point when you have more people who are actually officially in the race, Dan.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.